We need to start the official part of this interview, I guess.
Before time's over.
Oh, it's okay. I don't have to be back.
It's fine. Hi, everybody. Just in case you don't recognize this man, this is Fish. The one, the only, the legend, the myth, the everything. And the one that apparently is going to retire.
Yeah.
Which I cannot understand. You don't retire with a record called Weltschmerz. You go out on an optimistic note. No, it's like such a pessimistic note, I guess.
I would say it's a pessimistic record. You know? It's no. I decided a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, that I had to design an end game. You know, it was. I was dealing with back problems, shoulder issues. Touring was becoming hard, you know, and I've got over most of them, but I turned 60, and you know what? There's other things to be done. And I think, you know, the music industry has just changed so much. I mean, you know, we were talking before we started this interview, and I was talking about going to see the Bohemian Rhapsody film, the one about Freddie Mercury, and it was like, you know, and watching that movie, I was reminded of how the music business used to be. Yeah. You know, when I started, and you know, we put our first album out in '82, it was, you know, it was vinyl and cassette. You know, and then it was like, you know, and I've come through the CDs, and I've come through CDs, and I've seen vinyl disappear, I've seen vinyl come back, and then I've seen digital downloads, and now we're dealing with streaming, and it's become a nightmare. It's I don't, you know, the problem is that nowadays in the music industry, if you're going to be a professional musician, the only way you can really make money is by playing live. Yeah. And the problem is that every band is going out there and playing on the road, and then you've got things like, you know, Fleetwood Mac coming out on tour, and it's 100 odd euros a ticket, you know. And you know, and the fans have only got so much money, disposable income to pay for tickets. And at the same time, you know, I'm a realist. You know, I'm never going to get up to that 3,000, 4,000 people a night level, where, you know, you can tour comfortably. You know, and you know, so I'm resigned to, you know, it is going to be a nightliner. You know, that is the way that I have to travel. Yeah, and I don't want to be doing that when I'm 63, 64. You know, and I've got a garden. And that, which is important. It's really important. Seriously, my wife and I are huge gardeners. I mean, our garden is so big, and it's such a huge part of our lives. We could actually be self-sufficient from garden produce, right?
That kind of garden, because, you know, I was thinking about Kim Wilde, who has he's like a gardening professional, whatever.
Yeah, it's the new rock and roll. Gardening is the new rock and roll. And it's, but I mean, the thing is that, you know, coupled with, you know, having to play and tour because, you know, you're not making money off recorded product as much money, you know, and it's the same with, you know, all the usual sources of income are all drying up, and you're left with live, and then, you know, I just don't want to be on the road for the rest of my life, you know. And the other thing is that, you know, with music in itself, there are only so many chords. There's only, you know, all the best hook lines have all gone, mostly stolen by the Beatles.
And you've done quite a few too, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's becoming harder and harder, you know, to not repeat yourself. And, you know, I figured, you know what, after I did the Feast of Consequences album, I really enjoyed writing that album, but I also realised the limitations that I was going to be put up with. And what happened was that 2016, my father died. I woke up 7 months later in the garden. You know, it was like, where did that year go, right? Yeah. And then the following year, I had to deal with a serious back operation and a serious shoulder operation. And I lost another year. And we started writing in January this year. And Steve Vance, my bass player, who's been co-writing me for the last couple of albums, we'd been putting bits, I'd been writing bits, Steve had been writing bits. And we finally got together in January and suddenly went, woof. And we suddenly realised, I just said, let's do what we want to do, you know? And suddenly it was 12-minute songs and 15-minute songs. You know, there was no 3-4 minute kind of like throwaways. Yeah. And I went, you know what, even with the ideas we've got, we're going to have a CD that's got only 4 songs in it, or 5 songs in it. And I went, we can't do that. And we have other ideas sitting in the back. Yeah. So I said, well, let's go for a double album. So this is in January this year. And at the same time, Mark Wilkinson, who's been doing all my artwork since way back in Murillo days, he said that he was going to have to take 2 months off for personal reasons in the summer. And he said, I can't do the album. Yeah. And I said, well, you know what? At the same time, you know, I'm looking at a double album. You can't hit the summer. We'll never hit a September release date. So I said, let's put that on back. Yeah. But we had to put something out because we're coming out on tour. And at the same time, fortuitously, a friend of mine who works in the digital kind of download streaming area and publishing and stuff, he said, you're missing a trick. He said, you're going to have to stream. Because I was totally against it, you know. And he said, you're going to have to get on board. Yeah. He said, you're not going to make any money, right? I mean, I remember I got an account of EMI about a year ago or something it was. And it was one of my songs that's on EMI. So when it's streamed, the money goes to EMI and they pay me on the old contract. Yeah. And I was on one of the songs from Vigil, right? I was on 0.00004 pence. And I worked it out.
It's not too bad.
That's it was going to take me 7.5 million streams to buy a beer in my local pub. Right, 7.5 million streams. You know,
you got really expensive.
Nobody listens to that song that long. You know, it would have to be put on endless repeat forever for the rest of my life. Right, but it was. But the thing was, he said, "Look, you're missing a trick," and he said, people might not be buying this stuff, but he said it's adverts. It's people can get to hear your music. They might buy your album off the back of your stream, but the more chances that they'll go and see you live. And when it got to the summer and Mark Wilkinson not being available, and us knowing that we're only going to get really half the album recorded by that time, we thought, let's put 3 tracks out for streaming and 3 tracks out on Spotify and put an EP out and use the 5 songs that we were playing on the UK tour that we weren't playing on this tour because we were playing Weltschmerz. Yeah. And at the same time, by selling the EP and putting the digital download up, the money comes in from that and it helps fund the album. Yeah. So it funds the recording. Yeah. So all in all, in that what was a very dark cloud at the beginning of the year, there was a beautiful silver lining in it. And that's where I am now, on the road with, you know, playing the Weltschmerz album, and there's a kind of jump promotion. So we finished the tour, UK tour, and then January, February, March, we'll be writing and recording and continuing the process, and the album might be out in May, but it might not be. But that doesn't matter because I'm an independent. Yeah. I'm not working in a great big corporate record company where you're in a sausage factory. You know?
Which is good. You own your own songs.
Yeah.
You know, which is the advantage of it.
Yeah, and I thought, well, you know, it's going to be my last album, so I thought, well, let's go out with a double. I mean, when I left Marillion with the Clutching at Straws album, and that was what I considered the best album that we did together as a band when I was in it. And you know, that was always one of the problems, because when I left the band after that album, you know, I didn't leave a shit behind, you know. It was kind of, you know, I left one album, and everybody goes, well, what would have happened next? Yeah. And that's kind of what I want to do in my solo career, is leave an album where people go, that was a great album. Yeah. That's the best he's done. And what would have happened next? But I want to write books. I want to write screenplays. You know, I am a writer who can sing. I'm not a singer who can write. And there's a big difference in that. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. How many people, now that it's clear that, you know, you're gonna put a hold on your career for all the wrong reasons, how many people approached you and said, like, well, do another tour with Marillion, the greatest hits tour, and you make shitloads of money?
It'll never happen. It will never happen.
But people approached you.
Well, there's been people approached and offered it, and it's like, you know, it's just, I just said, this ain't going to happen. They won't do it. Yeah. You know, for a start, they've had their singer since, oh God, since you know, forever. It's a long time. Yeah. And we do very different things, and if we were going out, we would have to play the old stuff. Yeah. And Steve Rothery, the guitarist, has already gone on record saying he will never change the keys. And like, fair enough. It's like, I have to go out and sing Clutching at Straws. We've changed the keys. We've taken different approaches to the songs. Sounds fantastic. We're getting great results in the road. We've got fantastic reviews. I mean, I got a review in the Frankfurter Allgemeine the other day, which was like stunning, right? And it's like, you know, and the guy said, he said, the voice is sitting perfect. You know, I've got a different my voice is at a different level now. When I used to sing back in the early 80s, it was unnatural. If I'd gone to see a voice specialist back then, they would have said, stop singing like that, you're going to kill your voice. And eventually that's what happened. You know, that's why I ran into so many vocal problems, because I was singing unnaturally. And we just went, okay, let's change it and let's just drop the keys and find new approaches, and it works. But Marillion will never do that. You know, they've gone on record saying they'll never change the keys, and it's like, well, fair enough. And as I said, they've got a singer, and I'm doing fine, and I've got another couple of years, you know, and that's cool.
You know, you talked about the garden and being in private when you stop touring and doing all this. Are you going to be more in Scotland or more in Germany?
I live in Scotland.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's, you know, mein Frau ist aus Karlsruhe, and, you know, wir haben vor 7 Jahren getroffen, and, like, you know.
That was my next question. Can we do this interview in German?
Nein, kann ich nicht, wenn ich in Deutsch mache. Das ist zu kompliziert. Mein Wörterbuch ist zu klein.
Du sprichst besser Deutsch wie...
Nein. No. Nein, meine Frau, you know, wir wohnen und wir haben vor 7 Jahren getroffen, und ich war 3 oder 4 Monate pro Jahr in Karlsruhe. Right? Das ist, warum ich habe KSC gefunden. Right? Meine andere Mannschaft. Und meine Frau und ich, wir haben, you know, ganz viel Mal, you know, gesprochen über, you know, wo wir leben. Ich liebe Deutschland, und, you know, sie liebt Schottland, und es war so kompliziert. Und am Ende des Tages, wir hatten ein Papier, Bleistift, eine Flasche Wein, in den Kneipe, und wir waren Schottland, Deutschland. And when we went all the way down, it was Scotland won, right? Because it was.
Your wife's going to live in Scotland now. You live in Germany.
Ja. Nein, you know, wir haben ein großer Garten, und, you know, meine Frau und ich, wir beide lieben zu Garten und alles, you know, mit Gemüse und Früchten und alles, you know. Und ich habe gewusst, dass, you know, wenn ich muss, dass mein Studio in Schottland sell again, verkaufen.
Zum Verkaufen,
ja. Denn wir haben nicht genug Geld für uns unseren Traumplatz hier zu kaufen. Right?
Okay.
Und ich bin zu alt für Banks und Mortgages, right? Und so wir hatten ein kleines Haus, und, you know, wir waren in Durlach. Und so, es war so teuer da, wir mussten 40 Minuten draußen Durlach leben, ein Haus zu finden. And it was just no, and the other thing was the health insurance, you know. And it was like, you know, when we looked at, you know, the visiting, you know, it was just too much. And it was like, it would have meant I would have had to keep on working.
Yeah.
No.
So for all our English-speaking people, Fish is multi-language, multinational. So I have to like sum up what he just was saying in German, and he said that, you know, his wife is from Karlsruhe, which is a city in Germany, and they had to like argue and decide where they want to live, if they want to live in Scotland or in Germany. And at the end of the day, Scotland barely won.
which is very unusual.
True that.
But yeah, but I mean, the thing in Scotland is, me and my wife love Scotland, and, you know, I've got a 15-year-old stepson now, and I've a 15-year-old stepson lives with us. He goes to school there, and it's really funny because he wasn't into the idea of moving to Scotland, and now he's got a Scottish accent. It's great, you know. And but I mean, you know, we live in interesting times. Yeah. You know, I mean, because, you know, Scotland had an independence referendum basically the year before. Yeah. My wife and I got married, and I was really disappointed at that result. And one of the things that was said during that first referendum was that if Scotland left the UK, then we would be leaving Europe, right? That was one of the big arguments, and a lot of people stayed with the UK and voted to vote against independence because they were scared we were going to leave Europe, right? And we were going to be left alone.
Irony has it.
And then 2-3 years later, we have the Brexit referendum, and Scotland votes 62% to stay in Europe, and so does Northern Ireland. But England turns around and goes, "No, you're leaving." And we're now in a state of affair. It's not a case of taking shooting yourself in the foot. This is like standing on a landmine, right? It is, in my opinion, one of the worst decisions that has ever been made, you know. And what I'm hoping for, right, is that, you know, once we get in the next 2-3 weeks, we find out exactly what this Brexit deal is, if there is a deal, right? Once we find out what it is.
Haven't seen one so far.
Nope. And if it comes up as a no deal, then the first thing that is going to happen is that Scotland is going to be looking for another independence referendum. And our ballot is going to be, you know, do you want to stay in Europe? You vote for independence, we move to stay in Europe. We fit all the criteria, you know, we're not like Montenegro or whatever. You know, we've been, you know, it's like as if one part of the island is leaving, but the other part remains, you know? And that's what I'm hoping for. It's a stupid decision. You know, we're like Germany, we need immigrants. We need an influx of people. We've got an ageing population. We need people to do the work. And, you know, we want to keep those ties. I mean, Scotland historically has had ties with Germany. I mean, way back in what was it, 1296, when William Wallace...
I remember
I do. William Wallace, when he declared Scotland an independent country way back then, the first letters that were sent out from Haddington, by the way, where I live, were sent to the Hanseatic States, you know? And it was like, you know, we are now open for business. And I'm hoping that Scotland will continue to remain open for business. We've always been a very pro-European country, you know? And it's, so, you know, maybe in the next 2 years, because we don't think the referendum is going to happen for another 2 years. By the time we go through the process of setting it up, you know, it's going to be 2 years' time. And maybe, and I think at that point, you know, I will definitely get involved in whatever is happening in Scotland, you know, and maybe as a politician, I don't know, but you know, as a spokesperson, as a writer, whatever, you know. I believe in it. I believe we could be independent. I believe we could survive, you know. Think so. And I think, you know, what everybody forgets is if we stay in Europe, then there's going to be a lot of big financial systems that are going to move up to Scotland to take advantage of the single market and the customs union. And there's going to be a lot of car factories moving up. There's going to be a lot of industry moving to Scotland. We could become a little powerhouse. You know? That's right. And I think, you know, the Irish situation, I think there's going to be developments there in the next 2-3 years as well, you know? It's interesting times, but I mean, you know, but Weltschmerz, you know, I mean, you know, as I say on stage, it was like, I came up with the title 3 years ago, but that was before Theresa May, Boris Johnson and Donald Trump, you know. And it's, that's why it became a double album.
You know, you turned 60 this year.
Yeah.
Has this number changed something in you? What do you think?
It was,
although it's just a number. Just a figure.
It was a scary number, and my guitarist Robin Bolt has just gone through his on this tour, and it was when we both said it was weird. But now I get a little card now, and I can get cheap train travel, which is good. There's also you always find something positive. But it's a weird thing. It was kind of, you know, I think, you know, when you're a kid, 60 is old, you know. You know, 50's not really old, 58's not old, 59's not old, but 60, suddenly it's old. It's funny because I met mid-year a couple of months back, and he was saying, we were talking about this, about, you know, being older and how you deal with people, and he said, it was really funny. He said, when he goes into the record company now, he said, and he's talking to like the young people in the record company, whatever, he said, at the end of every sentence, you keep on waiting on the word, right? And he said, like, they'll say, he'll go, how's everything going with the album? He says, it's all going really well, Grandad. you know. And he said he keeps away to your granddad at the end when they're looking at you going, they see you as being an old person now, you know. And I think that's it. And even the other day, somebody said, I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you know, he's really old, he's 60 odds. I'm going, oh, God. And they were talking about somebody, you know, and it was like, I mean, it's a state of mind, to be honest. I mean, with me, it's more the physical thing than anything else. I mean, as I said before, I mean, my knees and things, you know, it's the body that shows the age, it's not the mind, you know. And you know, as I said, I mean, you know, it's ironic that, I mean, we're doing on this tour, it's like the Clutching at Straws and the first part of Weltschmerz, right? And I said, I need to get a stool on stage. And I had, on the UK tour last year, I actually got one out of my kitchen, so I always had something from my home on the stage every night, which was kind of cool. And then we went out on this one because we flew in. We had to find a stool here. And at the second or third venue, we said, look, do you mind if we take a stool? And they said, well, we can't have that one, but we've got this. And it was an old classic bar stool. And it just means that for, you know, during the big long guitar solos or whatever, or even a couple of numbers like Sugar Mice, which I always declare as this always should be sung from a bar stool. And it was kind of like, I put the stool up, I went, you know what, this is so iconic. It's the absolute perfect stage prop for this album. A bar stool doing Clutching at Straws with a cover of being in a bar. Exactly. And it didn't hit me until after about 5 or 6 gigs. It was like, oh, this is so ironic. But you know, I just have to sit on it for a while just to kind of rest my spine and things. I mean, it's nothing serious, but I mean, it's just. But I do walk into venues and you count the steps, you know, up to stage, and you make sure there's a handrail. Because by the time you finish 2 hours on stage, it is painful. Oh, and I remember we played the Paradiso in Amsterdam, and the Paradiso in Amsterdam, right, it's not a stairway to heaven, it's a stairway to hell. It's like that up to stage. And it must have taken me 15 minutes to get up there and 20 minutes to get back down. Yeah. So say to the band, you go down first. I'll follow you. And it was like, oh.
So the people waited half an hour for the encore.
Yeah. Well, I say I'm standing at the top of the stairs. I'm not going anywhere. But I mean, you know, but it's a physical thing more than anything else.
But this is not the last tour you do, right?
No, I mean the idea is to go out next year, round about the same time, and go out with a Vigil album and Weltschmerz. Okay. And that'll be the 30th anniversary of Vigil. And then we do Weltschmerz in there, open airs in the summer, same thing, same collection of songs. And then the following year, which will be 220, that'll be the final tour. You know,
that would be the final tour. All right.
But I mean, even then, it's like, you know, I don't know. I mean, if I call it short, if I find that, you know, I'm not enjoying it, or if I'm finding it, you know, it depends on the response.
You know, when you stop touring, then you're 1 or 2 years into your garden. Don't you think it's going to come back? You're going to miss this whole stuff. Are you afraid of that? Would you be afraid of that?
No, because I mean, in all honesty, if I want to go out and do something, I could. I mean, there's an autobiography, and I mean, there's an obvious autobiography, and I don't even think it's only be one book. I mean, because it won't be like a typical musician's autobiography, because I'm a writer, and I've got lots of things to write about and stories that have got nothing really to do with music that are really funny stories, and some. A lot of things that will raise people's eyebrows, you know, about what's happened and what happened in my career, you know, because it's not been that well documented. And so, you know, if I want to go out on stage, then it would be easy to go out and do a book tour, or you know, and we did. The Electric Band is a no-no after this, after the last one. But I mean, I did the Fishheads Club tour a few years ago, back in 2010, when actually that was the tour that my wife and I kind of met. Right? And it was just a 3-piece, and it was fun. And I think there's probably a combination of doing a reading and a talk and doing a few numbers. And but I mean, just if I want to keep my hand in, I mean, all I have to do is go out and do 20 shows. Right, and I could pay the mortgage, and you know, and if the books don't work, then I do have fallbacks. But I don't want to go back out, you know, after this lot. I mean, everybody thinks that this is the last tour, but it's not. The last tour is going to be in 220 and 221, you know, and it's and I think that makes sense, you know. And it's, you know, as I said, I mean, I did the Farewell to Childhood tour, played the Misplaced album for the final time. This is the final time, played the whole Clutching material, and then the final Vigil. And then when I've got the Farewell tour, I can just pick the songs that I want to sing, you know, on that tour.
What will be the ideal place for you to end your career life?
I've thought about that a lot. Possibly Haddington, and where I live now. That might be a good place to bring it to a close. And you know, I'm not an Albert Hall person. You know, I did the Albert Hall years ago, and it's like, you know, if there's a venue to finish it, it's not going to be chosen because of the size. It'll be chosen because of the relevance. Yeah, you know. So
I can see that.
But yeah, it's you know, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, you know, this tour. I mean, you know, tonight is gig number 36 out of 40. You know, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. It's been great. My voice has been holding up really well. The best it's held up for years.
All right.
But a lot of that's got to do with stopping smoking in January. That's made a huge difference. And I'm looking after myself a lot more than I used to. You know, I'm aware. You know, I don't even go walking around the towns now. I mean, when I get a day off, it's like hotel room, sleep, shower, restaurant, bed, you know.
Yeah. So. No more rock and roll lifestyle.
No. But I don't think anybody does it now. I mean, all the young bands now are all kind of vegan and gym. It's like
there's something you said before that I was really surprised while you were saying it. It was just a sentence, but you said, you know, with the Weltschmerz record, you just did what you wanted to do. I never, for a second, was thinking that you would do something musically that you don't want to do, because all your records is like, you know, it's just you.
Yeah, but this one especially, it was like, you know, sometimes you reel yourself in. It was like on Feast of Consequences when I did the Highwood. The Highwood started off as, let's do one song about World War One, right? Yeah. Then it became two, and that didn't make sense because it's like you've got to do a three section. Then it was four, and then so I've done four. We've got to do five, and I could quite easily have taken the Highwood and created an entire album on that theme, right? And some people were suggesting I do that and basically use the other stuff as bonus tracks and stuff. I went, nah. I want to put it, to go further with this is going to probably lose the impact, you know. And on this one, when we started, I mean, again, Weltschmerz, I didn't want to write about politics. I didn't want to write about corporations and banks and all that cliched kind of this is the modern world stuff, right? What I write best about is about people in situations. You know, if you look at Sugar Mice, if you look at Gentleman's Excuse Me, if you want to look at, you know, all those songs, they're all about people, right? And I thought, you know what I want to do? I want to write about people in situations, right? In modern life situations, modern life problems, you know? And when I was in 17, when I was recovering, I started to read books by Hans Fallada, right? And one of the books was the English translation is Little Man What Now? And I found it really inspiring. I went, you know, this is a book that, you know, the original book was about a young couple in Germany growing up in a recession, trying to survive. And I thought, you know what, this is so apt. I mean, all the Fallada books I read, I could see parallels with what's happening now, you know? And that was the first lyric I wrote, Little Man What Now? And that was kind of put the theme up. And then I took a rod to my own back and I decided, you know, well, the other themes that come up, Waverley Steps, which is the other one that's on the Parlour with Angels EP, that's about male suicide. It's about male depression, right? And I was inspired by a story I read in the Edinburgh newspaper about an ex-soldier who was a young guy who refused to go and live in hostels. He just wanted to live on the streets. And he eventually died. He froze to death on Waverley Steps. And at the same time, I was very aware of what's something that's called the Campaign Against Living Miserably, CALM. And it was figures came out, which was from 2 years ago, and they were saying there was 85 young men committing suicide. I think it was every month, right? In fact, I think it was even more than that. And it was saying how nobody was recognising it, and it's become a really big movement. And I thought, you know, that's just a theme. I want to deal with male depression and suicide. There's another song called Market Garden that we've kind of started working on. And it's another big, long song. And it's about dementia. And it's about a Dutch guy living in Arnhem who was there when the Market Garden operation, which was the paratroopers, dropped in to try and capture the bridges and things. And it's about how he sees a young Scottish paratrooper fall through the greenhouse, his dad's Market Garden. And he's running about the streets of Arnhem while the battle's going on. And as he gets older, that's all he remembers. Because, you know, when you do have dementia, you can remember, like my father had an instance of dementia, and he could remember everything from his childhood in sparkling clarity. But he couldn't remember the last page of the book he turned. So, and it's about every day he goes down to the bridge, because the last time he sees the young soldier is in the water dead. And he goes down to that place every day, like he's looking for the young soldier, and he comes back to a wife and he doesn't know who his wife is and can't, and his wife is trying to reach into him and things. And there, and just what I've explained to you, is what I'm doing, and it's the difficulties of Weltschmerz, but it's also what I'm doing is I'm writing screenplays. I'm not writing lyrics, these are screenplays. And what I'm trying to do is condense that kind of stuff into an area of kind of 50 minutes. But how long it takes to tell that story is how long the song will be, which is what I'm saying. I'm not, I'm just following where I go with the song. Steve and Robin Bolt, my guitarist and first parts and keyboard player, we just follow the storyline and we put the music in, which is kind of how I used to write with the Marillion guys way back in the early 80s. So I've kind of moved into an old form of songwriting, and it's very progressive rock. It's very dramatic. It's very visual. I've always said I write basically movies for people's ears, And it's and all the sort of songs on the album. There's another one that's about grooming and self-harm. It's tied up in the same 3-part kind of piece. There's another one, the song that we play live at the moment that's not in Parley. It's called The Sea Song. And it's about somebody being told they've got cancer and how he deals with it, right? And, as I said, Little Man, What Now? So all the songs are characters. And it might sound really bleak and it might sound very depressing, right? But it's like the film American Beauty. That film dealt with some major subject matters, but it was done in such a way that they were beautiful. There was a dark beauty to it, and I think that's what I'm trying to find in the same way as Hans Fallada found, in the way that he expressed himself. There was a kind of a beautiful melancholy and a darkness, in it all, And I think you can find beauty, and you can express, dark subjects in a beautiful way. And that is the essence of the Weltschmerz album. But I also took a stick to my back because, I decided that every single song on the album is going to have a flower, a plant, or a vegetable, whatever in it, which is my reference back to the period after my dad died, right? So it's because I was in the garden and I just lost myself in the garden. So every song has got a relevant flower in it, That's yeah.
You gave it away.
No, but people find, but they just pop up, and they're not obvious. They're just touches.
You are, time again and again. You are connected to TV, and you said you write screenplays.
I'm fascinated by screenplays now. I'm fascinated at the way that the movies have developed. It's like, as I said, I saw Bohemian Rhapsody last night. I watch it with 2 eyes,
Yeah.
And it's, I love the way that, like Netflix. Netflix has been our saviour on the road, when you get a day off. I can sit there and watch, like The Bodyguard. I watched the Netflix. I watched 5 episodes in one day on the day off, minibar on Netflix. Yeah. And it was, but it's the way that, in the same way that it's difficult to write songs, it's difficult to make movies now because all the great themes have gone, and it's very difficult to take a character. I think Breaking Bad was a beautiful example of like how you go with episodes and series, where you take the principal characters and over that period you completely change everybody's engagement with that character, and your response to the character, your moral judgment on that character completely changes. You're with them, and then you kind of you're thrown into this. Wait a minute, that's a bit dubious, and that's what I love about a lot of these. The movie now, rather than being crushed into 2 hours. Most people cannot go to a cinema. I definitely can't go to a cinema and sit for 3 hours and watch a movie. But but a series, you can be drip fed, and I love the way that Netflix and a lot of these big companies now are kind of they're bringing in writers and bringing in different writers and different directors and stuff, and it's opening up an awful lot of it's challenging a lot of boundaries now, which I find exciting.
Okay. Good. I think I have no more further questions. Not that I can think of. We've done it.
Yeah.
We covered everything. Is there anything I forgot you
We
to
did
ask?
cover the football.
Well, wait, we talk again when 1860, gets relegated to the second league, and you're still in the third league.
I'm going to give you a funny story.
Yeah.
I'm a Hibernian supporter, right?
Yeah.
My father took me to my first Hibs match years ago, right, when I was about 12 year old, 12 year old, and we had season tickets, right?
All right.
And we went to see the club. It was the thing that brought us together. It was our moment. Was the football, right? Yeah. And even when I became a singer, I would come up and I would go to matches with my dad. We didn't have season tickets, but we'd go and see the matches and things, And Hibs hadn't won, right, the Scottish Cup, which is the big cup in Scotland, for 114 years, right? And it was the big joke. And Heart and Midlothian, who are a rival club, right, they used to humiliate us with this thing going 114 years. And every year it was 115. And it became a bogey thing. I think it got, every time and we got to the final so many times, right? I mean, and I remember the first ever final I went to with my dad, we got beat 6-1 by Celtic. I was crying, right? I was a 12-year-old crying my eyes out, right? I can't do this, we should have won. And anyway, so my dad became ill, and we knew that, he was on his way out, right? And Hibs got into the final against Rangers, right? And I had to go down and do a gig that weekend, and I didn't want to go, right? The last time I watched a final with my dad, right, was in the kitchen in my house, right? And we were playing Hearts, right? And I think we were 3-0 down, or we were 4-0 down at half time, right? And my dad said, "Just get me a taxi, son." Kept going home. Right. And I thought, oh, bollocks. And then we got into this final against Rangers, and I have to do a gig with another band down in England. And my dad goes to hospital. He's taken into hospital on I think it was the Thursday, and I flew on I flew on the Thursday, and he was taken to hospital on the Friday morning. And of course, he had no mobile phone. I couldn't contact him. And I went into I had a break. It was a festival, and I found a pub in this little town we were playing in. Walked into the pub, and I watched the football in the pub, and I just said, it was like, looked up to the heaven, just give us this today, just for him. And we won, right? And we won, right? And it was like, I was crying my eyes out, right? And we went up to, I flew back up on the Sunday, and I was told on basically the Sunday morning that it could be any day. And I thought, we've won the cup. And I went up and I saw him for about 40 minutes. And the two of us, we had such a laugh. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, right? And that was the last time I saw him. And the next morning, he passed away, right? And this is the really funny part, right? I could never remember my dad's birthday, right? I could never. It was in May, and I used to go. Is it the 5th? Is it the 7th? Is it the 4th? I could never ever remember what day. For some reason, I had a blank on it, right? And it was a running joke in the family that, it's your dad's birthday yesterday. I was like, oh, bollocks. Or I'll warm him up. It's not today, son. It's tomorrow, right? Anyway, Hibs, I've got a stadium, and on the stadium, on the main stand, which had been changed since my dad and I went, they started putting up memorial stones in green granite, right? So you could get a thing put up. And it was like, I thought, well, I'm going to do one for my dad, right? And I put it up, and it was like Robert Dick, right? And I put his birthday up, and the day he died, and it was, "You left us a final smile," right? And I went, fuck, I've got to make sure I get the birthday right? No way. Serious. And I got all the paperwork out, and I got it, and I nailed it, right? And I put the birthday in and stuff like that, and everything else. And then it was about a month later, after the stone had gone up on the wall, right, I realised I'd fucked up, and I got his date of his death wrong. So I got the birthday right, and I got the day he died wrong. He died a day later. And it's like, and I had to phone up my mum and say, I said to Mum, I'm really sorry about this, but my mum was she pissed herself laughing. It was great. So every time I walk past that stone in the wall, I always have a wee smile. He must have been laughing his head off.
Yeah, I'm gonna put one up for you in Karlsruhe. Don't worry about that.
Brilliant.
I think we're done. It's getting dark outside. I think he has to go to a show. I gotta look at this one.
It's time for sound check. No.
So that was our very, very funny, brilliant, and very interesting interview with Fish. And he's not gonna go out now. He's gonna come back. So you may be. Now, how do you say it? You please hold for more to come.
Pause.
Keine Pause.